Rain drizzled against the windowpanes of the quiet coffee shop, softening the world outside into a blur of gray and gold streetlights. Inside, the hum of low conversations and the hiss of steamed milk created a cocoon of warmth. Emily sat alone at a corner table, still in her scrubs, her hair tied loosely, and dark circles shadowing her gentle eyes. Her hands were wrapped around a cup of coffee she hadn't touched, more for comfort than caffeine. Her exhaustion was palpable, every movement slower than usual, every blink a struggle to stay present. Yet, when an elderly man by the counter dropped his umbrella and stumbled slightly, Emily was the first to react. She rose instinctively, her own keys falling to the floor as she rushed to steady him and gather his belongings. She asked if he was all right, offered a warm smile, and returned to her seat only once he did. Unbeknownst to her, someone had been watching. Across the room, seated by the window with a closed book in front of him, Daniel took notice. A quiet man in his 30s, he had been coming to this cafe for weeks, always keeping to himself. But tonight, something shifted. He watched the way Emily didn't hesitate to help a stranger, even when she clearly needed rest herself. It wasn't just kindness, it was instinct. And something about that touched a place in him that had long been numb. He didn't speak to her. Not yet. But he remembered her name on her badge. Emily. A few days later, the sun peeked through after a long stretch of rain. Emily moved through the grocery store parking lot, juggling her tote bag and a few items she'd quickly picked up after another long hospital shift. As she reached her car, something caught her eye, a worn leather wallet lying near the front tire of a parked vehicle. She glanced around. No one seemed to be searching for it. Without hesitation, she picked it up and walked back inside to hand it to the cashier, politely declining to open it or check for identification. "Someone's probably panicking right now," she said with a soft smile, then quietly returned to her car, unaware that this simple act was about to change everything. That evening, just as the sky turned golden and she was preparing to unwind at home, there was a gentle knock at her door. Confused, she opened it to find a man standing with an awkward smile and familiar eyes. "I think you found my wallet," he said, holding it up. It was the man from the coffee shop, Daniel. "I asked the cashier who turned it in," he added. "She said it was a nurse in blue scrubs. I figured it had to be you." Emily blinked, caught off guard but smiling. "I just did what anyone would do," she replied. But Daniel shook his head. Not everyone would have walked all the way back just to help someone they didn't know. He didn't say it aloud yet, but in that moment, kindness had found a face. Over the following weeks, their paths began to cross more often, sometimes by chance, sometimes with quiet intention. A wave in the coffee shop turned into a short conversation. A casual, "How was your shift?" grew into longer talks on a park bench beneath rustling trees. Emily, still hesitant and careful with her heart, found comfort in Daniel's presence. He didn't press or pry. He listened. One chilly afternoon, as autumn leaves danced in the wind, Daniel opened up. They sat side by side, coffee cups warming their hands, as he spoke about his past, his wife, Anna, who had passed away 2 years earlier. The grief had swallowed him whole, leaving him numb and distant from the world. He admitted he had spent months just existing, walking through life like a shadow, until that day in the coffee shop. "I saw something in you that day," he said softly. "The way you moved, so tired but still helping others. It reminded me of her. But also, it pulled me back. Made me feel something again." Emily didn't speak for a moment. She just looked at him, her eyes full of understanding. She knew what it meant to carry pain quietly, to care for others while your own heart ached. Their bond wasn't loud or fast. It grew gently, like roots finding each other underground. There were no grand gestures, no declarations. Just shared silences, small laughs, and a sense of peace neither had felt in a long time. Kindness had become connection. Connection was becoming something deeper. It was a night like many others, cold, long, and emotionally draining. The hospital was short-staffed, the emergency room overflowing, and Emily hadn't taken a break in nearly 12 hours. Her feet ached, her back screamed, but she kept going, checking vitals, comforting families, wiping away tears that weren't her own. By the time her shift ended, she was on the edge of collapse. She stepped outside, the icy wind hitting her face like a slap. She didn't expect anyone to be there, but as she reached the parking lot, she froze. Daniel was waiting. He stood beside her car, holding a small paper bag and a thermos. His breath clouded in the cold air, but his eyes were warm. "I figured you wouldn't have eaten," he said quietly, handing her the bag. "It's that soup you like, and tea." Emily blinked, overwhelmed. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," he interrupted gently. "You always take care of everyone else. Let someone take care of you, just this once." Then he reached into his coat pocket and handed her a tiny wrapped box. Inside was a delicate silver pendant, simple, but beautiful. He hesitated before speaking. It was Anna's. She used to say it reminded her that even the smallest light shines in darkness. "I think she'd want you to have it." Tears welled in Emily's eyes. No one had ever given her something so personal, so full of meaning. This wasn't just a gift. It was trust. It was healing. It was love, quietly blooming. The lake was still that morning, its surface like glass reflecting the soft hues of sunrise. Emily stood at the edge of the water, wrapped in a light shawl, watching the golden sky unfold. Beside her, Daniel stood silently, hands in his pockets, his gaze not on the lake, but on her. They had come here without planning it. Just a spontaneous drive after a quiet breakfast, a mutual need for peace. No words had been said yet, but something in the air felt different, full, gentle, and waiting. After a while, Daniel spoke. "You know," he said slowly, "I used to think my story ended the day I lost her. That life had nothing left to offer." Emily turned to look at him, her expression soft, open. "But then I saw you," he continued, "that day in the cafe. You weren't just kind, you were light. You made me feel again." He reached out, taking her hand with quiet certainty. "You didn't just return my wallet, Emily. You returned something I thought I'd never get back. My will to live. My hope." Emily blinked, tears sliding down her cheeks as she smiled through them. No grand declarations, no promises. Just truth. Just love, slow, steady, built on kindness and trust. She squeezed his hand gently. "And you reminded me that I don't always have to be strong alone." They stood there together, hearts open, pain healed not by time, but by compassion. What began as a simple act of kindness had become something extraordinary, love.